Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you're having a fantastic time. Um, Thank you very much to the business of online gaming, Bog, for uh, inviting me to the online program. Really happy to be here. Thank you very much, Jordan, for reaching out to me. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Chinese market and specifically launching games in foreign markets. Um, with me, Aaron Denford. I'm the marketing director for APPTUTTi. Um, so a little bit about this presentation. I'm going to talk you through some of the Chinese mobile market statistics, as well as how developers, both as an indie and a studio, may want to reach this market with their apps and games, and how AppTutti can help solve these problems, as well as some facts around ISBNs, IP certificates. Essentially, this is everything you need to know about the Chinese market from an outside perspective. This covers things like monetization, etc., etc. So let's get into it. I hope you can follow along with me. And if you have any questions during all of this process, you can feel free to reach out to me on my email or through our social uh, platforms. So let's get started. So, first, let's begin with the Chinese mobile market. No matter how many times I say these figures, they kind of always blow my mind. Uh, the first one I like to start with is that 27% of all game spending worldwide is in China. So this takes into account mobile, console, PC, but the fact that 27% of all revenue generated in gaming comes from one country is incredible, and that's probably going to rise as well. With 33.1 billion in game revenues, again, this takes into account all platforms, but mobile specifically accounts for around 19.5 billion of that 33.1 billion. And that's expected to grow to 46.7 billion by 2024, uh, with mobile gaming accounting for around 30 billion of that 46 billion. They have a really large esports, mobile esports scene in China too. As you can see here, 13.9 billion expected to go to 23.2 billion. So they have a lot of mobile esports tournaments, and they really adopt well to games that have a strong mobile esports kind of model. So games like PUBG mobile, games like King Glory from Tencent, there are a large amount of people that will watch those esports specifically on mobile. And there are 691 million mobile gamers within China. So a lot of people that I speak to about the Chinese mobile market, they don't have much awareness about the entire market, and it's totally understandable because for a developer or a studio outside of China, understanding the process of or the things that are happening inside, it must be very difficult. But one thing they normally mention is the fact that there was a license approval pause in 2018, which is correct. So in 2018, the process of granting licenses for your games in order to publish in app purchase games into China was changed. So it was actually changed to the state of administration and press. They were the ones that took over the responsibility for um, granting these licenses. So in 2018, we can see a big decrease in a lot of the big publishers' revenue during that time. And let me give you the updated slides. Sorry. Yeah, so the current regulator is the State of Administration of Press and Publication, or SAPP, and this created quite a disruption in the whole process, in the approval process, which has only kind of recovered itself within this year and the end of last year. So it's a very big market. It's a very lucrative market. A lot of people want to enter it. It's very has a chance for you to really take your creations and expose them to millions and millions of people that are beyond the Google Play and App Store. And half of the Chinese population play mobile games. So that's what I like to leave this market segment on, is the fact that half of the population of 1.3 billion play mobile games. So female gamers in China is something that's been really exciting in these last couple of years too. We're seeing a big growth in the female market in China. So the number of Chinese female game players reached 367 million in February, up 6.4% from a month earlier, and they're consuming a lot as well, where they're consuming about $3.5 billion during the first half of 2019. And we're seeing lots of companies and games that are tailoring to female preferences, with good reason. There's a fact that the King Glory game, which I mentioned before, think of it like a League of Legends mobile game. 54% of the players on that game are women, and this example called Mr. Love Queen's Choice has over 65 million downloads. It's essentially a female-orientated visual novel that gives you the opportunity to text and chat and call the main characters, and it's kind of like a JRPG love comic. And it accumulated over 5 billion views through social media. So people, like, not only do they play the games that they have preferences in, but they have such like passion for the things that they like. They are like very invested. Once they find the games that they really enjoy and really like, they will like jump headfirst into them, which is just like unlike any other markets I see. Where in China, it's like people are willing to spend a lot of money and to really be brand ambassadors for like games, mobile games, as opposed to other countries. Another example being this one called Anipop, which is like Kaixin. I don't know those two characters on Le. It just means like happy pop. This was the number 3 most downloaded Android game in 2020, in May 2020, according to Newzoo. It's essentially just a match-free with some cool cutesy artwork, kind of more tailored towards women, but guys will play this too. I see this game everywhere in the subway during people's commuting. They're just always matching the free. So I was looking through the comments on this game during my research, and I found this one person that had played over 2,000 hours on this game. So she said she starts the game in 2014, so she's been playing for over 5 years. And she started from a rookie that didn't know anything, and now she's really good at it. She essentially says that if she doesn't wake up and start matching free and start trying to pick the fruit trees, she feels uneasy about that day and how to continue on in that day. The translating there is just from Google Translate. But when I spoke with my coworkers about this, they kind of gave me more of like her true meaning about it. And it's just I don't think I've ever clocked 2,000 hours in any game. Maybe all of my games put together would be close to that. So it's crazy to see this kind of person is not unique to games in China as well. This person that will invest a lot of their time is not unique. So I am an independent developer and I want to launch my app or my game into China. I've been making Go-Go Football. This is my game here, Go-Go Football. I've been making it for the last 4 to 5 months in my spare time, and now I want to release it into China because I've heard it's a big market, and I've also already put my app onto the Google Play and the App Store, and nothing has really happened. It's got a few downloads, but not that much. So here I am on my island outside of China, and now when I start my research for how to enter this market, these are some of the problems that I may come across, and I'm going to summarize them here for you so you don't have to do all that nasty research. But feel free to if you'd like to. So the first would be fragmentation. So because there is no Google Play Store in China, the Android market, which accounts for around 80% of the market share between Android and iOS, has been fragmented. It's split up into hundreds of app stores, from the Xiaomi App Store to TapTap to the Tencent My App to Wendou Jia to many, many more. Now, while there are hundreds of app stores, you only really need to get your creation or your app into around 20 to 25 of the top ones in order to reach almost everyone in China. But still, these different stores have different requirements. It's in Chinese, of course, so how do I reach those stores? How do I submit my game? And I would need to build a different build for each store, which is time consuming. The next is regulations. So these are some of the example regulations that we suggest. Nothing political, nothing supernatural, nothing religious, nothing overtly violent, nothing to do with substance abuse, no prostitution, no gambling. There are regulations that will mean that your app will not be able to be published in China. Now, there is no definitive list that has been given from the SAPP, which I think most people are like, please just give us a list so we can know. However, through our local expertise in our company, we're able to tell our developers whether their app would be allowed or not allowed from initial submission. And pretty much most services that you may use to enter China or work with publishers to enter China will also be able to give you this advice based on previous experience and other reasons why previous projects have been declined. But there is no definitive list, unfortunately. And localization. So my game needs to be in simplified Chinese. So there is 2 types of Chinese. There's traditional and simplified. Simplified is used across mainland China. And my game also needs to be localized in the fact that it can't have any foreign materials in terms of Google Play logins, Twitter logins, Facebook logins, any foreign ad networks, any foreign data networks. It basically needs to be stripped and removed of any foreign elements inside of the app, and replaced with local versions, which, of course, as an independent developer, where do I find these? I don't know how to install the local social medias as opposed to my Facebook and Google. Now, taking those aspects out of my app may be pretty simple, but being able to replace them and also have my in-app content be simplified Chinese may be difficult for me as a developer. So now, what documents do I need if my game or my app has in-app purchases? So for games that have in-app purchases, it is now more important than ever to be compliant with the relevant licenses before launching in China. Recently, we saw on the App Store, over 30,000 games were removed because they did not have the ISBN license and the IP protection certificates. Now, these games were in-app purchase games, and it is required for them to have these two documents. Now, the hyper-casual and casual games, or games that rely solely on ads monetization, are not required to get an ISBN prior to launch. A lot of stores will ask for an IP protection certificate, which is relatively simple to acquire, but they won't require an ISBN. And we think, sorry, we have been complying with these government regulations on the Android side since around 2016. It's only recently that the Apple have enforced the regulations inside of the App Store in China to be compliant with the new governing bodies. So now it's across the board. If my game has in-app purchases, I need these two documents: ISBN, IP protection certificate. If my game is based on ads monetization, then I can publish. Some stores may ask for an IP protection certificate. However, I can still get my game in. So the first is the software copyright certificate, or the IP certificate, and this just allows me to protect my intellectual property inside of China. I know a lot of people think that China has a reputation for taking other people's intellectual property. However, in terms of gaming IP rights, they are really giving developers the opportunity to protect their property, their intellectual property inside of China. These are the things you need in order to get the software copyright certificate: name of the game, business license, etc., etc., program code, name, application form. You'll need a local Chinese entity to apply for this for you, either a publisher or a agency can apply for this for developers, and it costs a couple $100 to get it, with around 40 days to acquire, and there's an express service too for you to use. So the ISBN, if you have dealt with any Chinese mobile game publishing or game publishing before, you may have come across this term ISBN. So what is it? It's essentially a serial number starting with the letters ISBN, followed by a string of code, string of numbers that identifies this piece of legal document with the number inside of the game. So in most games that have, well, in all games that have ISBNs, you'll see somewhere during the loading or somewhere in the game their ISBN number, which you can then see onto the public website from the SAPP. And it's essentially just them saying, hey, we're all good, we have our documents. And it begins with ISBN, so that's why people call it ISBN. You may also have heard of publishing license when people talk about this. So these are the steps for getting the ISBN or publishing license. First, you need to find a local publisher for your game. Second, you need to have the copyright license or apply for one. Third, the publisher will then find another third party, or the press or an agency that deals with these publications. Now that's required so that the government can say that not only the publisher of the game, let's just say for instance, Tencent will also need to find press. Now press in this aspect is a company that deals with distributing movies or newspapers or any sorts of press materials. They will then help with that process and take co-responsibility for ensuring that it's up to the Chinese standards of, like we said before, no regulation, nothing against regulations, etc. And then after that, the SAPP will examine the build at the provincial level. So um, for instance, I'm in Guangdong. So if I was to do this process here in Guangdong, the Guangdong SAPP would need to examine the build. If you were to do it in Shanghai, the Shanghai SAPP would need to examine the build. So it's done by a district or a province inside of China. And then when everything is all good, they examine the build, they're happy with approving it, then the SAPP office will approve and issue the ISBN license to the publisher and then to me as a developer. And then, yay, I can publish my in-app purchase games, which will be profitable for sure, with the amount of players that we have here in China. So I hope that wasn't too much to digest. Essentially, you may need to go back and look at that more. If you have any other questions about that specifically, please feel free to reach out to me or APPTUTTi directly. So let's talk about some genres that perform well and genres that don't perform so well. So first we have puzzle games, arcade, RPG, strategy, and simulation. All do very well inside of China. We found that in our case, simulation games do really well from our developers. Ones that don't perform so well are card games, board games, sport games, gambling, trivia, word games, social casino, etc. Now, let's come at it through the traditional publishing route. If I was a developer and I wanted to get my game into the markets, traditionally I'd reach out to a publisher such as Tencent, NetEase, and that's how they would get me into this market. However, my Go-Go Football hasn't got a huge metrics. It doesn't have a lot of players. Maybe the monetization model isn't super optimized. So these traditional publishing routes may not accept my game. And if they close the door on me, it seems like there's pretty much no other doors open for me. However, this is where APPTUTTi comes in. So APPTUTTi is a 24/7 online portal for developers to publish their games into China. And throughout 2019 to 2020, we've seen a 40 times growth in the amount of partners that have been started using us and submitting their apps for us, and we're really happy about that. We've had developers from pretty much every country in the world. I think we're missing around 40 countries before we can say that we've had registrations from every single country, which is pretty cool. And we're responsible for around 38% of all the foreign games published in China. So how does it work? So first you register on our site at aptuti.com/partners, make an account, it's free. Then you will submit your APK. If you have a Google Play submission handy, it will cut down your time to submit. And you send us your APK for us to review, and then for that APK to begin the publishing journey. Next up, you will integrate our SDK. Now, this is the part that I was talking about earlier that allows for localization of your app, making it compatible with China, and also allows for multi-store publication into all of our partnered app stores. And then finally, publish. We've had cases where from registration to publication, it's taken less than 10 days. So you can really have your game on the Chinese app stores within 10 days. These are some of our services. We have the RSPP Basic, which stands for Register, Submit, Plug, Publish. That gives you access to 3 of our app stores, free translation, the SDK resources. The RSPP Plus, which is our most popular service, gives you access to the intellectual property certificate, 8 stores, and our RSPP Max is all of our 20 plus more of our app stores, and it gives you the 2 documents required for ISBN. So a little bit more about how APPTUTTi solves these points that were previously discussed. So with fragmentation, we have partnered with more than 25 app stores where we can distribute your game inside of all of the top stores in China, and our SDK allows for multi-store publication with one build. Localization, we give 1,000 words free translation for every game submitted. We're able to give you full local payment systems, local login options, local ad networks. And for monetization, we can apply for these documents that are required from the government for our partners. Apply and monitor these 2 documents, and our SDK will allow for fully optimized monetization if and when you have those documents. Our premium package, this is our invitation-based service, which is a little bit more like a traditional publishing route, where if we find a project that performs really well, we will onboard it into our DDCP package, which will give you these benefits: access to all of our stores, support with UA and local marketing, and we provide IP certificate and ISBN for that project. Our business development team include Daniel Camillo and Tom Arnin, and they are the ones that will help really work with the developer on a one-to-one basis to try their best to make their games succeed inside of China. So again, our SDK, already really covered this, but login options, data mining, payment options, ads, it's just like such a cool tool that just allows you to have your game compatible with China in one integration. This is some of the data you'll be able to see on your dashboard after your game is published. All of the cool data that everybody loves. Users, stores, ads, geography, devices, transactions. We have also made a app for our partners so that you can always have your dashboard in your pocket, and you can track your activity, your performance, manage your revenue. Our APPTUTTi Viewer app that is available to download for partners on the Google Play or the App Store. We are fortunate enough to be one of Unity's official partners inside of China for app and game distribution since 2019 on their Unity distribution portal, which you can find at unity.com/Unity distribution portal, and APPTUTTi is one of the partnered stores. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope I wasn't too far over the time limit, and I hope I didn't give you too much information to divulge. I hope you had a informative experience where you come away from this knowing more than you did coming in. And you can feel free to follow APPTUTTi on all of the social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And all that's left to say is please fasten your apps and games. We are landing in the Chinese market. Thank you guys very much for watching. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime. I hope you all have a fantastic day.